Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast with Michelle Chalfant, a place to delve into who we are, how we got that way, and explore what it takes to be a healthy grown-up. With an extensive toolbox and guests with varied expertise, Michelle will lead us on a journey to learn what it's like to live authentically and to love ourselves just the way we are. And now, here's Michelle.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. I am Michelle Chalfant. I'm happy to be here with you again today on this September 26th. We are on episode 177 of the Adult Chair Podcast, which is cray-cray to me. I can't believe we've gone this far, and we are going very strong. And thank you to everyone that shares the show. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're new to the show and you want to learn more about the Adult Chair model and how the Adult Chair can really change your life, just go check us out at theadultchair.com. All the information is right there that you need to learn about the Adult Chair. Don't forget, we have the Adult Chair event coming up within 4 weeks, you guys, which is I can't believe it's here. We had this planned for so long, but it's October 24th, 25th, and 26th in San Antonio, Texas. I can't wait to go. I've heard such great things about San Antonio. But if you want information on that event, where you can come and experience the Adult Chair for yourself in live, that is at theadultchair.com/events, and you can learn everything about those 3 days right there. Okay, so today on the show, I had someone that's very near and dear to my heart. Her name is Meghan Crough. She's a phenomenal therapist out of Rochester, New York, which is, yes, my hometown, but I did not know her then. I've known her for about 20 years, but we met when she was living in Washington, D.C. And ironically, she now lives not even in Rochester, but in the suburb where I grew up, which is Pittsford, New York. That's where she lives, which is kind of crazy. But I had her on today. She is truly a parenting expert. She's a family therapist, and man, I have reached out to her many times over the last 20 years when I had parenting questions. She knows her stuff and has an extremely successful business up in Rochester, New York. So with kids going back to school and so much happening with kids, I thought it'd be a perfect time to have someone that knew a thing or two about parenting on, and that's why I chose Meg Crough. And I originally wanted to talk to her about really parenting with boundaries versus control. Like, how do we do that? And of course, every conversation I have with guests on the show is so organic and not planned, and it just blossomed into so many other beautiful things. We ended up talking about, I really, again, want to talk about how we raise authentic, healthy kids. We talked about that. We talked about what happens if you and your husband or wife have very different beliefs or ideas on discipline with your child? And also, what if you're divorced and now you have your ex-spouse, who has very different rules in their household than you have? What do you do with kids that come home and they're really confused because you've got boundaries in your house and your ex has boundaries in their house and they are not the same? What do you do? That was that was a great, great point that she had on that. So we talked about a ton of different things. We talked about trust with parenting, discipline with parenting, and just really raising successful kids. So our conversation went all over the place with parenting, and I really think and hope that you really enjoyed the conversation that we had. Oh, and parenting through divorce. So again, lots of great stuff. But first, before we get to our interview, I do need to thank our sponsor. Today's sponsor is Care Of. Care Of is a wellness brand that makes it easy to get the right vitamins, supplements, and protein powders for your specific needs. Whether you're looking for glowing skin, more energy, better sleep, or something to support your health and fitness routine, Care Of helps you build and stick with a plan that's right for you. So fall is a great time to set some new goals to get back into a healthy routine and reprioritize yourself. You know, I'm all about that. And I think that Care Of is a great company that you can do that with because they make it so easy. They have this online quiz that lets you know exactly what you need. So this 5-minute quiz is short. It's fun. There are some questions about your diet, your lifestyle, and your health needs. And it kicks out this report and tells you very specifically what you need to take. It's so personalized, this company. I love it. They even personalize your packaging, which is so cute. The vitamin packs and protein tubs say your name on them. And remember, don't forget, vegan and vegetarian supplement options are available to match your dietary needs and to ensure that you're getting the nutrients that you need for those specific diets. This company is so great. I really want to say this again because of this online quiz. This is what sold me on this company, because just because your mom takes a vitamin or your friend or your sister, whomever, it doesn't matter. It might not be what's best for you, but the quiz helps you to narrow down exactly what you need. You're going to love this company. So for 25% off your first order, go to takecareof.com and enter promo code ADULT, ADULT. Again, for 25% off your first Care Of order, go to takecareof.com and enter promo code ADULT. All right. So back to Meghan Crough. Meg Crough is a marriage and family therapist who comes to mental health from a background of a large, loud family, a parent of 3, and as a Montessori school teacher way back in the day. She specializes in complex family relationships and enhancing a healthy self with clients of all ages in Rochester, New York. So I really believe you're going to love this interview, you guys. So enjoy. And here we go with Meg Crough. Welcome, Meg Crough, one of my favorite people, one of my most favorite people on the planet. Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Yay. I'm delighted to have you. This has been, I think we've talked about this. This has been a long time coming because we've talked about this for years. Yeah. So I'm very excited to have you. Thank you as our parenting expert today. And I really would call you a parenting expert. Like, I know that I myself have turned to you over the years, many, many years, for parenting advice. I just think that you're brilliant in this department, and not just this, but this is one that we're going to talk about today. So yeah, I'm really happy to have you. So we're gonna jump right in. So we're talking about, like I said before, we're going to talk about parenting with boundaries versus control and how to raise authentic, healthy kids, and not physically healthy, although that might come up, but emotionally and mentally healthy kids. I think that's so important. So I have some questions for you. I'm just going to rapid fire questions.
Okay. I'll try to be concise.
Okay, here we go. So what shapes us as parents? How's that? Because here's what I realize about parenting is you and I were just talking before we started this, but there are like a million parenting books, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And one parenting book teaches us this, another parenting book teaches us that, and this. Like, there's like so many parenting books with so many theories out there. No one truly prepares us. Like, there isn't one book, I realize, to raise kids. So, but what shapes us as parents?
Well, those are kind of two separate things.
I know, I realize that.
Okay. So many millions of books is because parenting, we start when we're expecting, right? That's when we shift into parents. And then it really doesn't ever stop. It's really from pre-birth to death. One of us, our deaths. I mean, that's the breadth and scope of parenting. So you just need so many tools and so much flexibility. And there are different resources for that. But then also think about where we each are. So the parent I was when I was 22, when my son was born, is not the parent I am now at 49. Oh my gosh, I wish I could go back and redo it all and just totally nail it this time. But that wouldn't be real anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, we're supposed to change and learn and grow. That is the point. So any book that says that is on the right track. Yeah. All right. So what shapes us as parents? So everything from our biology, but definitely our early parenting, how we were parented. I think that's what I work with folks as a therapist most is the patterns and programs that are left over from early parenting. and how they're trying to do that differently with their own kids, and why in those most important moments when stressful things are happening, they will revert back to the way they were parented, and then they'll beat themselves up and say, why did I say that? I became that parent I never wanted to be. And so helping them kind of unpack how powerful that is, and then really how to do it differently.
Oh, that's powerful. I like that. I'm reminded of something that I want to tell everybody today. I can't remember. I think it was Patty Elledge who I interviewed on the attachment, one of my attachment podcasts. And she said, according to the attachment theory, we only have to get it right 30% of the time, and we can still raise healthy kids. I was like, amen to that. Thank God.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think
what she's really saying, what she's really saying is that we've noticed that, so children are constantly giving out clues and signals of what they need. Mm-hmm. And what that 30% thing is we can miss those clues and we can misread signals 70% of the time, and they can still develop a healthy sense of self. Honestly, this is where it gets a little into digital tech world. That's not my forte, but this is exactly what I'm concerned about as we look forward, is that every time I see an infant, and every is too strong a word, but most of the time when I see little ones out in the world with their parents and caregivers, somebody's on a cell phone. And I'm wondering about, to me, that's the big worry that most of us in this profession have about children's emotional health and growth, is that if no one's paying attention to the signal, right? Sure. If the signal has to be more interesting than the coolest new meme on Facebook, then might it get lost in the shuffle? And the answer is, yeah, unfortunately it is.
That's powerful. You're right. I mean, this whole cell phone age, forget it, an electronic age, this is a whole different way of parenting. But I notice with parents, I hear this in my own practice, parents, we are so hard on ourselves as parents. We want to get it right. And when we make one mistake, we want to go back and change. And I want to talk about boundaries again with kids. And I'm finding boundaries are so loose these days with so many parents because they feel like they're hurting their kids. They feel like, again, we can go back to that cell phone, like taking the cell phone away and the kid throws a temper tantrum, or the iPad or whatever these kids are on. We go, okay, you just take it then. I don't want to get you upset. And I think back to like when I grew up, because I'm 51, mm-hmm. I'm old. So I watched Happy Days, and those were the shows that I watched when I was a little girl. And it's like the way that people parented, of course, like in the 50s and 60s is so different than today. It's like back then, kids they were let, in the morning, like go outside and play and come back at dinner time. And now I find parents are so involved in their kids' lives, and, they're in 25 sports and activities after school, and they're given so much. It's like, it's out of balance, in my opinion. Like, what's your take on all of that? And then again, when the kid pushes back or says, well, I want to do this too, the parent just goes, yes, okay. And it's like, wait a minute, where are the boundaries? Like, where are the fine lines that we're drawing in the sand that say, this is okay, this isn't okay? So,
yeah, you're reminding me of Stephen Covey's 9 habits of highly effective the 7 habits of highly effective people. But he does the same thing for families, mm-hmm. highly effective families. Mm-hmm. And he talks about creating the family mission statement. And as maybe hokey as that sounds, I do think a lot of families don't have one. And it's in distress that they realize they don't have one, because now they don't know how to make a decision. Mm-hmm. How do you say no to a kid who wants to play hockey and have 5 a.m. practices and the fees are $1,000 per season? It's just puts a strain on families. But how do you also feel like a good parent if you say no? So if you have a frame of reference that helps you couch those decisions, or with your partner make those decisions, then that puts you ahead a little. The other thing is there's this discernment factor that we all want our kids to develop, which is they're going to have these buffets of choices, whether it's college classes, whether it's sports and clubs in high school, whether it's friends and activities in elementary school. I mean, gosh, even like Gymboree with infants and little ones, right? I mean, there are too many options. You can't do it all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to address that in ourselves of like, oh, all right, there's certain things about this that I just need to forgive myself now, give myself permission for now that I'm not going to be great at. I remember screaming when I found a dead mouse one time under the kitchen sink, and I jumped up on top of the kitchen table, as I want to do. And the mouse was dead. It wasn't chasing me or threatening me in any way. And I remember I got off the table and I walked into the other room. The kids are, eyes big as saucers. And I said, okay, here's the thing. You guys need to learn how to be okay with mice and rodents, but don't learn this one from me. Go talk to somebody who likes them and learn from them. Please don't learn this crazy fear I have from me.
Yeah.
But the truth is, they are paying attention.
Yeah. Always. They're sponges. They're taking it all in.
Well, they are. But see, if you learn to debrief like that when you screw up,
mm-hmm.
then I think we actually have empowered parents.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain lines you don't cross, just like you don't cross with your partner or your dear friends. There are just certain insults or criticisms you would never, they're lines. You just cannot cross those lines because there's no going back.
Mm-hmm.
Those have to exist with our children too, even though they're in a different position of power, because by the way, that changes over time. Mm-hmm. Suddenly they're at your height, or taller than you, looking down on you. And then after that, they're out in the world and maybe they call you on Mother's Day or Father's Day, and maybe they don't. I like to think about parenting with the long game in mind.
I like that. And I like what you said when you said with the mouse, and you said to your kids, don't do this, but of course they're doing it. But you're in that moment bringing awareness to what's going on. I'm thinking about, I remember one time I was really upset with my kids and I yelled at them, really screamed at them. And then I calmed myself down, of course, and I went back to them and I said, I'm really sorry. And I find that parents sometimes don't do that. They yell and then they walk away and they say, those kids deserved it. It's no, not really. No.
Right.
And I went back and I apologized and I sat both of them down. They were young and they're probably in grammar school. And I said, I'm really sorry. I got so upset. And they said, it's okay, Mom. I said, no, it really isn't. That level of upsetness
mm-hmm.
was not okay.
Yep.
And when I'm apologizing to you, and this is where I think as parents, people ask me all the time, how do I raise my kids to live in the adult chair? I'm we have to model it. We've got to model healthy
yes.
to show them what healthy looks like. And being healthy doesn't mean I'm never going to get it wrong. It means I'm going to be accountable when I get it, quote unquote, wrong. So when I went to my kids and I said, first of all, I'm very sorry that I did that. Yeah. And they said, it's okay. And I said, let me just teach you something right now. You don't ever have to say to me, it's okay. You can say thank you if I'm apologizing, because it's not okay. And it's not okay that I raised my voice in that way and screamed and lost it. I said, and I'm going to really work hard on never doing that again, but I might. And if I do, it won't be okay again. But my mommy's really trying very hard to get it right all the time for you guys, but I'm going to make a mistake. And I just want you to know I'm sorry. And they're like, thank you, Mommy. And I was like, okay. And life went on. But that's so big though to me, is that we as parents, it's not supposed to be perfect and we never get it wrong. We get it wrong sometime and it's okay.
Yeah. And what you did was you actually encouraged their discernment. What you said to them is, you are worthy of respect from everyone, from friends, family, from me, in a way that allows you to not just say, oh, it's okay, it's okay. No, engage your discernment. Be good to yourself. And we are all accountable. I think anytime we are reactive, and I know you discussed this about child states and adolescent states. I think that's most of us, when we're reactive, we're in one of those.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And anytime that gets triggered, that's when we need to, I think, if we can, take a break from parenting in that moment. You just need to disconnect and say, and I've said to my kids, I am not in a good place right now to have this conversation. Believe me, you want to have this conversation with me when I'm in a better state of mind. So we're taking a break here. Yeah. And it's not a question, by the way. When the kids say, but I need an answer right now. I don't know. How often is that really true? That they need an answer right then.
Yeah.
So I'm unapologetic about taking time for myself, even if it's 5 minutes, even if we're leaving on a trip and we're running late. I'll say, no, I'm taking 2 minutes. You guys are going to wait. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Which is awesome. Awesome. And what do you say to parents that would say to you, like, I just don't want to disappoint my kids? I hear that from parents. What do you say to your parents when you're in therapy with them?
Disappointment. My God, they have so many harder things ahead of them than disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
Get over it. Like, we have to disappoint our kids in order for them to be able to learn how to stomach it. But disappointment with heart is very different from disappointment with callousness or disrespect. Disappointment that looks like, sweetheart, I would love to buy you that hockey season. I wish I had the $1,000. And I wish that 5 a.m. thing could really work for us. But once, we looked at it and we decided, knowing what's best for our families from the decision that we can make from right here, maybe in a year it might be different, but right now, the best decision for all of us is we're going to have to let the hockey season go. It's just not going to work. And I'm so sorry.
So then I love that. So what do you do then when the kid is upset? What do you do when the kid is in a bad mood? What do you do when the kid throws a temper tantrum when they say, but I really want it? Or all of those things, like sadness. It's like, in my opinion, it's like, it's okay. But what about the kid? Well, I'm going to hear your opinion on that.
Well, there's two things. Some of that is kind of within the scope of normal, and then there's extreme. So I'm not speaking to extreme right now. Let's go into the range of normal. I would be really empathetic. Yeah, that hurts. Mm-hmm. Disappointment's terrible. Everybody doesn't, nobody likes disappointment. It hurts. It's painful. Just that kind of thing. And but have you thought that, and then when the time is right, kind of like Dan Siegel, right? And it's like, you meet them at the emotion and then you go logical on them.
Yep.
It's like, well, have you
but that's key. Else? That's key. I just want to pause you just for a minute. Didn't mean to cut you off, but it's like, we have to meet our kids in the emotion. What I find parents do is when that kid gets upset, the parent wants to shut it down or make the pain that the kid is in go away. And it's not necessary. It's life. And they've got, if they can do it under your roof, then they're going to be better apt and be better skilled to do it out in the real world. So when they leave your nest. So it's okay that they're disappointed.
Yeah.
But meet them there.
Yeah. And I think you're speaking to something really broad and important, which is we all get into parenting for the most part because we really want to be parents. And in that vision that we all have of wanting to be parents, it's the picnics, it's the graduations, it's the parties. Mm-hmm. We have the view of the fun stuff. Nobody says, I want to get into parenting because I really think it will help me grow and learn to have better boundaries and communication skills through difficulty. Like, nobody says that.
No.
But that's true. So I would say to parents, especially of young ones, be realistic with yourselves. Recognize that this adventure you are now on is going to cover the full spectrum of human experience. There are going to be highs like you have never imagined, and there will be lows that you will swear are going to leave you bleeding on the side of the road. And both are probably true. But I have never in my life seen someone spontaneously combust from difficulty. Okay? We all think that that's what's going to happen if we go into those uncharted places in us.
Right.
And in the world. Never have I ever seen that happen. So my encouragement always to people is to have the conversation you're afraid to have. Stomach the thing that you're afraid you're not going to live through. Because as you expand that inner reality little bit by bit with those kind of difficulties, you gain so much more confidence in yourself to walk in the world. And suddenly the anxiety is less, depression is, feeling powerless is less. You feel it's a different way of walking.
Yeah. I like when you said life, it is an adventure. It's so true. And we have highs and lows and nobody prepares us for this, but it's all just part of it. It's all part of the experience of parenting. I'm going to go back just for a minute. So what do you do? And by the way, trying to get your kid out of feeling disappointed because they can't do the hockey thing, trying to get them out of that, that's being controlling.
I was going to say, why are we trying to get them out of it?
Yeah, no, I just want to point out, because we're talking today about the difference between boundaries and control. That's control versus the boundary is, so sorry, we're not going to be able to do this. When we try to get them out of their pain, that's being controlling. I want to ask you to further that a little bit more. What about the kid that has an all out temper tantrum screaming on the floor?
How old are we talking?
I would hope that an 18 or 16-year-old can do that, but I'm thinking they're a little younger. Yeah.
I mean, usually after 6, nobody's throwing temper tantrums.
You never know. Maybe
no. I mean, it's not a hard line, but
let's just say, like, what if the kid is, or like screaming and yelling and throwing things? Like, how do you handle that in the household?
I don't want to sound holier than thou. It never happened. I mean, doors were slammed in my house with my kids with difficulties.
But what do you say to a client that comes in and says, what do I do with my kid? Every time I say no, they're like throwing things around and they're getting upset and it's inappropriate and they're scaring other kids. And
right. So what you're talking about is emotional dysregulation. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So you're talking about going off the chain, right? That comes from someplace. That didn't just start. So I would say that there's a history to that that's important, and it's probably important to understand. So if one has a partner who does, who acts out that way, and then the kids start doing it, well, hello, that's not mysterious where that came from. But the intervention to it, the both parents would need to be on board.
What's the intervention? Give me some ideas.
Well, like, let's imagine that this is a dad who's noticing his wife gets really upset, his partner gets really upset, and raises her voice and will slam a door. Okay. And acts out. Well, now their 6-year-old daughter is doing the same thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what parents have traditionally tried to do is say to the father to the mother, let's say, maybe we should go to therapy for our daughter. And then a good therapist is going to figure out pretty quickly that this is far more of a couple issue than it is a parenting issue. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think I was trying to do, is give advice on both levels, right? Because we have to support parents as human beings first, and then as a couple, and then as parents of this family team. Mm-hmm. So there's always the hierarchy there, that we got to deal with all the levels.
It seems this is a perfect segue into the importance of the parents raising the kids. They need to come across to the kids and in life as a unified front to those children that are in the household. So what do you do when, and kind of like what you're saying, the mothers do, I understand that we're going to move over to something else. So, but what do you do when one parent disciplines in one way and another parent disciplines in another way? And it's really, it's so confusing for kids. So what do we do about that?
I was going to say, I'm not sure I agree with your premise that we have to be a united front. Certain things, of course, and developmentally, based on where the kid is, it's more important or less important. Okay, well, if you're sitting with teenagers, it's a lot. The intellectual capacity is so different, right? Mm-hmm. A teenager could sit with the fact that one parent feels one way about something, the other parent feels differently. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, they want their kid to be safe, and have choices and feel supported. So sometimes I think we go from the minutia of kids' little lives where we truly are in charge of everything, and that just, we winnow that back over time, and it becomes bigger picture, much broader. Details are now in the kids' realm.
Right. As they age. But when they're little, it's confusing for little kids when daddy wants to get the kid a cell phone and he's 10 years old and mommy's like, no, you're too young for a cell phone. That's not okay. And then mommy and daddy are fighting in front of the little kid. That's what I mean by unified front. Like, it's like, take that argument outside, not in front of the child. Like, let's not confuse the kid. So what do you do though, when you're in a family or a relationship and you're trying to raise these kids, and your husband or your wife or a partner, whoever you're in relationship with that's raising these children, when you're not on the same page?
I see it a lot in step families.
Yes.
Because those folks, right, let's say they had a family mission statement, each of them. Okay.
Yeah.
And now they have come together and they're dealing with each other's kids, and it's just a whole, complicated situation. So again, though, it's like the foreknowledge, the work you do in the beginning of things will pay off 1,000-fold. Mm-hmm. So so when I work with step families, preferably before they're married and, as they're going through the blending process, we talk about, let's get down to the nitty gritty of what the values are here, that you've come together, you've decided to blend these families, let's get that. We need to be concrete about that. That cannot stay in the realm of, oh, but I love him and I love her. And, it's no. We got to get really very practical under those circumstances. And I think it's true for any kind of family. So what do you do if you're on different pages? Well, first of all, anybody who's fighting in front of their kids has succumbed to their reactive, the freaking out inside that has already occurred. So I would just say, this is not going to be productive. This is a really good time to say, ooh, I am really triggered right now. Let me take a minute. Let me take 15 minutes. Let me take until tomorrow. Let me do some research. I love the idea of parents educating themselves on the latest and greatest information. We don't know the effect of cell phones use on kids, although we do more and more. The research is unfolding. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So we don't know everything we need to know yet about these things. And so parents taking the time to actually come up with well thought out plans, and then the kid gets to be themselves, and parenting is improv.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great quote. Parenting is improv. It's so true.
Yeah. It's live action improv. Yeah. All the time.
True. So true. So what my takeaway here is, if you're not on the same page, it's about getting on the same page. But again, what if one parent's always like, no, I think my wife is too strict. I just cannot agree with her. That's a marriage counseling issue, correct?
It absolutely is. I was going to say, those are the things that actually, if nobody's willing to yield and to, educate themselves, try some different things, then you're probably moving toward irreconcilable differences. There's a reason that phrase exists.
Yeah.
But the key to that would be to actually break it down into its component parts. Like, wait a minute. We love these kids. We want them to be safe. We want them to be mentally, emotionally okay. So how do we get there? And yes, I most often find that parents who are very strict are really trying to deal with their own unresolved trauma, their, ways that they feel out of control.
Yes. And they don't know how to set a boundary. So it becomes much more controlling than a healthy boundary, even with parenting those kids. Going back to, I have a lot of family or couples too, unfortunately, or women specifically, that are divorced. And then they have, again, the stepdad is coming in. What happens? Again, I like what you said when you are coming together as a family and you've got to blend that family. It's really important to get into some sort of counseling or coaching ahead of time to get all this worked out before, right?
Yeah, but I don't know how many people are going to hear us about that. Most people are at cleanup.
Exactly. But how do you handle when, again, there was a scenario a friend of mine was telling me about. So the parents were divorced. The father gave the daughter a cell phone. Mm-hmm. The daughter went home to her mom and her stepdad. And she got in trouble. So the stepdad took the cell phone away. So then the daughter rebelled against the stepdad. It's this whole so there's this huge argument going on. So as a family or as parents, how do you handle something like that in raising these kids? Because this is part two to my question. What do you do? This is a big one. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy hearing you say this, your response to this. What do you do when the rules in one house are really different than the rules in another house? In other words, when I go to dad's house, it's like this, and mom's house.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually an easy one. I know it doesn't sound easy.
It doesn't.
But it's that whole thing about the disappointment. It kind of goes back to that. When the rules are really different, you admit that the rules are really different and you talk to the kid about that.
Yeah.
And you say, kid, you're going to have this kind of a strange life. A lot of kids who live in one household, which frankly, so many of the kids in this country live in two households. So it's not that different anymore. But even so, some kids live in families and households where the parents are kind of on the same page. They think pretty similarly. Mm-hmm. And yet you have kind of a strange situation where things are really different. So you really have different ways of behaving, of expectations. Now I'm talking even 6, 7 years old, you can have this conversation with kids, even younger, actually, but I wouldn't use these words. Mm-hmm. I would use simpler words. And I would say, this is unusual, but you can figure this out. You have a lot of capacity in you to figure out how certain things are in different places, just like in school, how you don't act the exact same at school as you do at home or at grandma's house. And if you just expect that, if you trust yourself to figure it out wherever you are, because kid, your environments are going to be different your whole life. You're going to have some teachers you really like. You're going to have teachers you really don't like. You're going to have college professors you think are awesome and those that you think have just woken up that day just to make your life miserable. And you can figure it out. You really can. And if you need help with that, I'm here to listen. Can I change things that happen in that other place? Probably not. If it's a safety issue, I will do my very, very best. And I'll get anybody involved I need to get involved in that. But if it's about what's comfortable for you or what's challenging for you, probably there's going to be some hard stuff on your part to learn some new things.
I feel so empowered listening to you right now. I'm like, I love it because you're just validating what's there and you can't change it. And This is where I have parents that come in and they're like, oh my God, it's so awful. I'm like, yeah, it is. So now what? Like there are some things we just cannot change and we have to just accept. But I love the words you used to offer those to a kid. It just felt so empowering. Like I'm listening to you as if I was a child. Like, oh wow, I'd love to hear that. Like I felt like, yeah, I can overcome anything in the world. Like it felt actually good. Versus victim-y. Like, oh, your dad's such a jerk and da 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 da. And that's another thing. Please touch on this. When parents talk about the other parent to their kid, it's overwhelming. A little bit about that because the parents will come in and share this with me. I'm like, stop, please. Like, no.
Yes, I know. That's what I want to say to them too. Just stop. And it's so human of us to want to blame. Okay. Yes. And I love what Brene Brown says about blame, right? We're discharging pain. And that's the part we've got to own is that the pain I'm discharging in that moment is the pain that I might still feel toward my ex. This actually has nothing to do with you, but I'm letting you see that and I'm letting you witness it and I'm involving you because I don't know what else to do with it. And that's where the boundary line is crossed between parent and child. That's a violation there. It really is. Yeah. So when people say, oh, don't badmouth your ex, that sounds like a good intention that lots of people give themselves permission to ignore. Mm-hmm. But it actually really, really matters. And the time it actually matters the most is 15 years from that moment.
Tell me more.
Well, kids are little and they forget things, but they're emotionally influenced by what's happening when they're young. And when those things feel off to them, but they're powerless to deal with it, they stay with them through time. And then, so now you have a 15 or 20-year-old who doesn't quite trust you as the parent. And you think, wow, how is that possible? I was the one who was there for you. Mm-hmm. You were there in lots of ways, but there were some ways that you overstepped your boundaries and that kid felt that violation. They felt stepped on. Mm-hmm. So, and you didn't own it when it happened. So go ahead and be stupid for a minute. I definitely did it when I went through my divorce with my kid's father. Mm-hmm. I said some stupid things, but as quickly as I could, not quick enough, but as quickly as I could get my head around it myself, I came back and I said, you know what? That was me acting out and that was not okay. Mm-hmm. Own it. I've got some hurt
Yeah.
I've got some hurt and I need to talk to other grownups about it. I need to keep it away from you guys. That's not your stuff.
I love that. I love that you're just taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Love it. It's such a great modeling moment for children and kids. I want to go through just some questions, just very general kinds of questions that I've heard over the years. So this is such a tricky one again with cell phones and whatever's happening in this day and age. But how do you feel about like when kids are not, let's say, as kids grow up, let's say in high school, this is when we really want to start letting go more and more and more, right? And letting them be free and more independent. But talk about some, again, boundaries versus control with high schoolers. So if that kid is not doing well in school or not doing their homework, like they say they're doing their homework, in high school, are we punishing? Are we disciplining? Tell us about what happens in high school versus like a younger kid. Like a younger kid, you got to stay more on top of them. But high school is when you're kind of letting them be free. So tell us about that a little bit. Boundaries versus control in high school.
Well, I mean, ideally, you've been working the boundaries since they were little, so that when you say, "So you have a big test tomorrow," but I see I see the light under your door at 11 p.m. or midnight. I see that you're still up. Oh, it's fine. I'm good. Like, if you've raised your kid with good self-care and like, you know what, when I've got a big thing going on the next day, I want to get a good night's sleep. Every teenager I know will push that boundary, will absolutely push it. And it's developmentally appropriate that they do that. But they've got to learn that their performance drops off when they're exhausted, their scores are less. That is nothing you need to teach them for the most part. They'll figure that out. And it costs your relationship when you insert yourself in one of those situations where it is a teaching moment for them. They're learning about themselves. So I have had to really keep myself in check and say to my kids without as much judgment, the smallest amount of judgment possible that I can have in my voice, and say, well, good luck with that. I'll see you tomorrow. And I close the bedroom door. Or my daughter actually finds this a little patronizing now, but I'll say, you know what? You'll figure it out. And she's like, Mom, I know what you mean when you say that.
Yeah.
She's 25, right? And I say to her, but I mean it. Like, it's really okay that you get to figure this out. I just want to always tell parents, please let them start when they're 4 and not when they're 14. Please let them start figuring things out. You know?
Yeah. And I don't see that these days. Like parents are, this is where I love Dr. Shafali. We were talking about her before we started, but it's like, they're so controlling. Like they're so involved in watching every single thing that's happening with these kids from such a young age. It's like, let it go. We've got to learn to let go a little bit more.
And what I hear in that is just anxiety. And, what do we have? 40 million folks in the country right now on anti-anxieties.
Yeah.
So it's, there's a real problem there.
Yeah.
And does that affect our parenting? Of course it does.
Yeah. This is why I think it's not the kids, it's the parents. Like we've got to check ourselves and wonder, why are we? It's hard though, living in this day and age. I went through this with my kids. Parents say, oh, now what does your son play? How many AP courses does he take? Are they in honors classes or regular? Oh, where did he apply to college? There's a lot of pressure. So we get it from other parents, like everybody's doing it. So it's hard to let go. And I've used this example before in another show when my older son was a senior in high school. And I knew if he missed more than 5 days his senior year, then he would have to take finals. But if you attend school, and again, if you're sick with a doctor's note, it's different. But oh my God, like I would sit there and I'm like, Graham, you got to go to school. He's like, oh, I'm really sick today. I'm like, you're not sick. Get out of bed. Oh, I'm really sick. And then I would leave somewhere and I'd come back and he would be gone. I'm like, oh, good. You want to just go? No, I went golfing with so-and-so. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you doing? So I realized I was more invested in him. Yeah. not missing those 5 days so that he would not have to take finals, right?
Right.
And then I'm thinking, oh my God, this kid is not only not going to have to take finals, he's not going to go to college. He's going to have to, he's going to have to do this. And I'm picturing like worst case scenario. So I was getting myself so worked up and I finally said, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm letting go.
Yeah.
And he missed more than 5 days and he missed like 8 or 9 days. So then he had to take finals. And I realized like, why am I anxious? He's certainly not. He's sleeping in, doesn't care, right?
He's golfing.
He's freaking golfing. I'm like, so I had to let go. And it was so hard. But I finally just said, I'm done. I let go. He had to take finals. And of course he came to me and he's like, no one else is taking finals. Like, most kids were not taking finals. He had to take finals. I'm like, It was so hard not to be like, I told you so, but I didn't. I just shut my mouth. I didn't want to shame him, and I said, yeah, that really stinks. I just validated. I was like, yeah, that really stinks. It's like, I'm not going to let that happen. Of course, the kid then goes to college. He gets like almost all straight A's. I'm like, how did that happen? But I had to let go
because we had to learn.
No, I had to learn, and he learned through the whole darn thing too.
Of course he did.
But you know what? We're not letting our kids do this. Like fall on your face, figure it out. Like you said, when you said you will figure this out, it's going to be tough. It's like we as parents got to remember that and trust they are here to figure it out. We've got to stop getting so overly involved in every single little tiny thing.
It's the image that's coming to mind is ice skating. I remember thinking that I'm so glad my kids and that I learned to ice skate when I was really young, because I was very close to the ice when I was short, right? And I was a small human. I was very close to the ice. So guess what? Built up in my insulated winter gear, it didn't really hurt. I wasn't that far from the ice.
Yeah.
I fell down. I got up. I tried again.
Yeah.
Do not learn to ice skate when you're 60.
Yeah.
Or when you're 6 feet from the ice, it's way more painful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let them fall. But I wanted to just challenge just a little bit, and maybe this is useful, maybe not, but the idea of letting go. I think we're all we have this idea of adolescence and letting go. And that seems kind of aggressive, letting go, because I actually think I've seen. So the word I want to suggest in place is allow.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I've met 12-year-olds who are still on the Santa Claus train.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who are just not those super sophisticated kids. And those parents who are telling them about drinking and drugs and boys are scaring the crap out of those kids.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not ready to hear that.
Yeah.
And then you have other kids who are in a totally different trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're allowing, like if you wake up one day and you say, I got to let this go, that's you reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, I want to allow my kid to show me who they are, and I want to be in real time and adjust small increments as we go, then I think it allows you more space to pivot and move more gently. Nothing needs to be dramatic.
Right.
Maybe sometimes that there does need to be a letting go. Maybe sometimes there does, like you did. I think your example was great.
Well, what I realize is this is my stuff. This is not his. This is Michelle's problem, not my kid's problem. This is Michelle's problem. It wasn't like he could have failed out of school if he kept missing school, but
But you made a decision and you followed through. And that's what I mean about dramatic, right?
Which me, Meg. I'm dramatic. That's how I operate, honey.
I know you do.
That's how I do things. I used this example many years ago, I think on a show. And when we raise kids, they start out as little infants when they're born. And we as parents have to have boundaries with them. And it's like they're on a 1-lane expressway and we're the guardrails. And as they age, we have to move those guardrails out, and they go from 1-lane expressway to a 2-lane and a 3-lane and a 4-lane. And by the time they're in high school, they need to be on like a 10-lane expressway, but we're still there with the guardrails, but they're on 10 lanes. So they can go 10 lanes back and forth. They can hit the guardrail, but they still do have guardrails, right? So I'm not saying like, let them do whatever they want to do, but we've got to fail and to fall down and to pick themselves up and then to keep going. because that's the real world.
Well, and that's why I would challenge your guardrail metaphor. I think it really needs to, the guardrail disappears at some point.
Oh, it does. Oh, it does. After, I think when they leave the house, it's like done. But,
and even before that, I think, the other things that are elements of the guardrail model are like gravity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gravity is a big teacher.
Yeah.
Gravity is a merciless teacher. Fatigue, failure, they mouth off to a friend or act out in school and suddenly the police are at their house or, the friend never wants to talk to them again. I mean, there are a lot of other elements to the things that keep us in line, the social program, right?
Yeah.
And I do think parents, frankly, take on too much of that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And I think we have to be willing, again, like I said about myself, but to sit in our own, whatever, I'm going to use pain, but whatever emotions coming. I remember talking to a friend years ago and she says, my son will not get off his video games. And I said, she goes, I don't know what to do. He plays them like 8 hours a day. And she says, what do you do? And I said, well, I take the cord. I don't even say turn it off, because if I do that, they're going to get back on. So I say, okay, time's up. Give me the cord. They're like, oh, and then I'd hide the cord because I can't find the cord and it's done. And she goes, oh, wow. But my son would be so upset if I did that. I said, yeah.
Yep.
And what's wrong with that? And she's like, that really hurts me when he's so, I'm like, that's our work as parents. We've got to sit in our pain, uncomfortableness when our kid is upset with us, because especially when we know we're doing it for their higher good. Like we have to remember who's in charge. Like we're the parents guiding. Yeah. So anyway. All right. One last question for you. You ready?
Sure.
You've been a parent for 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you listen daily to parents and families in all kinds of distress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So drawing from all of that, what is the heart of the advice that you would offer for families, whatever stage they're in as parents? Like give parents like a takeaway.
Actually, I think the most important, there's so much, like about the 30% you said earlier, there is so much we can get wrong with parenting. But if there's one thing that we get right that actually matters more than everything else, it is that we see our children as separate human beings who have come here to have their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually realize that this little person who has joined your family has their own life, that they are in process of living, and that you are welcome to you're on the field with them at that point when they're little. Later, you'll sit on the sidelines like the rest of us and, not get to get on the field anymore. That's okay. Mm-hmm. That's the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But you're invited to the game still. That if you get that one right, if you actually see that although you are not musical, your kid is very interested in music, and you say, wow, look how we're different. How can I support you? Then you've got it.
Yeah.
They love zucchini and you can't stand it. You say to yourself, we're different. That's okay. And if that's how you communicate to them through all the different things in life, of that their opinion matters, their voice counts, they do have a separate life that is different from yours that they are living, then you're less likely to get embroiled in some of these conflicts and boundary dramas that we've been talking about.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Thanks.
I'm going to add another question or comment I'd like to have you make, if you could, on trust. I think it's such an important topic. Talk about trust with parenting.
It actually goes perfectly with what I just said, which is if you see your child as they really get a self, okay, in this family dynamic that you've all, jumped in on, there's space for them to have a discrete, separate, whole self. Then you will do and say things that build trust. If you do not, if you get, embroiled in the drama, like we said, then there's going to be low trust. That's why I said, if you badmouth a parent, an ex, it's going to show up. There's certain stressors in the immediate future, but when it really matters is 15 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
When your kid doesn't call you and doesn't want to have, just turns the volume of the relationship way, way down. And you want to say, what did I do? What happened? And really, it was like a Grand Canyon type of erosion experience, that all those little digs along the way, you eroded trust. So every day with our kids, we build trust or we erode it. And we can be honest with ourselves about which one we're doing. Then we know how to do it right. Then we can get it right. And we can get so many other things wrong. We can be a terrible cook. We can be disorganized. We can have a messy house. We can be underemployed, whatever. Like, there are just so many things. We can have bad hair. We can do so many things. But if we get that one right, they will respect us. They will honor us. They will want to be part of our team, our family.
Love that. That's a great place to end. Thank you, my love. This was so great. So great. Such great advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you are in my hometown of Rochester, New York. And if there are people that are local to you, how can people find you if they might want to reach out and let us know what you offer and how people can find you? Okay.
So I'm not doing any classes at this point, maybe down the road. It's just private practice work at this point. So they can use my website to contact me. And that's probably the best way if they want.
And what is your website?
MeghanCrough.com. So my full name, MEGHANCROUGH.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, my dear.
Thank you.
Fabulous. I loved it. Thank you for all of your beautiful advice today. And I certainly found it helpful, and I think everyone else will as well. So thank you.
I hope so.
I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I sure did. She's a lovely person, and oh my gosh, one of the best therapists that I know on parenting. So thank you again, Meg, and thank you to all of you for listening. And again, if you want to check out the event in San Antonio, go to theadultchair.com/events. And that's about all I've got for you today. I will see you all seated next week, firmly right here in the adult chair.